Walshe is set to defend dismemberment. And down in Florida, matriarch mastermind Donna Adelson, she heads to a new home. And in California, reports that a grand jury may be convening over the teen found stuffed in the trunk of a Tesla. The jury has gone home for the day in the court of law. Let's head into court of opinion. Welcome to Court of Opinion. I'm Julia Janae. Thanks so much for joining us for something a little different here on Court TV. This is a new kind of space for our power panel to air out their strong opinions and sometimes controversial viewpoints. And this is on the most high-profile trials and cases that we follow here on Court TV. But it's all based on the most pivotal facts. We have got a brilliant panel of experts on deck for you, our co-counselors. And whether it's the court's final opinion or the court of public opinion, we are digging into all of it right now. And we begin this hour with the biggest trial we are covering this week, and that one is in Massachusetts. The disappearance of 39-year-old Anna Walshe, a missing mother whose husband is on trial for her murder. Defendant Brian Walshe is accused of not only killing her, but also dismembering his wife. Her body was never found. And get this, he doesn't deny that he dismembered her and that he killed her, but he says that he only did it because he panicked after he found her dead in their bedroom. He's claiming the Suds defense, that it was a sudden, unexpected death and he didn't know what else to do. Now today, the Commonwealth rested their case, and their last witnesses on the stand were monumental. Let's get you caught up on the testimony in Day 8 of Massachusetts versus Brian Walshe.
Were there any investment properties that your team was able to sell for Anna Walshe?
Yes.
Where was that property?
In Revere.
And do you remember when that sale occurred?
Well, that sale would have closed on December 29th or just a day or so before, because I called her on the 29th.
During this conversation, what plans were made for New Year's Eve?
She specifically told me, she said, I know you. You're not going to go anywhere for New Year's Eve. You're just going to stay at home. Please, please come and spend New Year's with us.
Did you agree to?
I did.
Tell us what happened when you got there at the Walshe house.
Anna came running out of the house to greet me.
What problems did you see between the two of them that night?
None.
When is the next time you spoke to Brian Walshe on the phone?
It was a Wednesday morning, and he said, have you heard from Anna? Anna's been missing. And I said, how could she be missing? And he said that she left that morning. He said that she had a work emergency. I said, what work emergency could there have been on New Year's Eve? I said, listen, did you guys have an argument or something? Did you have a fight? His response was, no. Did it look like we had an argument? You were there. I didn't know what to make of it. I was in shock. So, I said, you've got to call the police. His tone was not panicked.
Since you left the home on New Year's Day of 2023, have you seen Anna Walshe?
No.
Have you heard from her?
No.
Christmas of 2022, did you have communication with Brian Walshe on that day?
Yes, he was looking for Anna because he said he hadn't heard from her.
Did you speak with Anna Walshe that day on Christmas Day?
Yes, she was angry and she was upset that Brian would have called me that day because she said that she'd only not spoken to him for like an hour and a half or 2 hours, that it really hadn't been that long.
What, if anything, did she tell you about her intimate relationship with Brian Walshe?
She told me that, aside from everything being really difficult, that they had not been intimate in a really long time, like maybe over a year, I think she had said. She said it was because that Brian had been really depressed and that the strain of the case had really just taken a toll on his mental health and their marriage.
Ms. Kirby, in this conversation on December 29th, what did she tell you about Brian and his mother and a psychic?
She told me that Brian had told her that his mom went to a psychic and that the psychic had said that she was having an affair. And that night she told me how ridiculous that was. She'd always felt that Brian's mom didn't like her, and that it was scary.
This really was an emotional day, emotional way to end day 8 and the end of the case in chief of the prosecution. Let's bring in our power panel. Everyone standing by. We have in studio with us tonight criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Mazi Mazloom is with us, and joining us remotely, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Marie Pereira, and Emmy award-winning journalist and host of the podcast Surviving the Survivor, Joel Waldman is with us as well. Great to have you all on, guys. So good to see you. Mazi, you're here in studio with me, so let me start with you. Give me your opinion on the state's case, the Commonwealth's case there in Massachusetts. Do you think that they have done enough to get beyond a reasonable doubt on that top charge of first-degree murder?
I think they have. First of all, thank you for having me. It's great to be in studios with you. Excuse me. I believe that they have. Aside from him pleading to those 2 charges initially and then jumping into the case itself, I think they've got enough evidence. And his admission to chopping up a body and disposing of it, I think they've got a good case.
Marie, do you agree? Any problems with the case at this point?
I think I agree. They do have a very good case, and now I'm hearing even more. I didn't know the piece you just played about her telling her friend that his mom went to a psychic and the psychic was snitching on her in her sneaky link. I didn't know that. Oh my God.
Joel Waldman, you've been following this case very closely on the Survivor. Did you expect the case to end this way? We had so many people that really kept Anna at the center today.
Yeah, I mean, I did, just because the government, I think, has been laying out a fairly good case, and there's people that have different sort of takes on this, that they could have been better prepared, but they've been succinct, they've been to the point, and their last witness here, Alyssa Kirby, she was the best of the best witnesses, and she essentially talked about that psychic, but also talked about really this perfect storm between Brian Walshe and Anna Walshe leading up to this alleged murder. And in my opinion, we're all overthinking this. This is going to be a very fast deliberation. I'm saying probably in an hour or less, they're going to convict this guy overwhelmingly.
Mazi, let me ask you this about the state of Massachusetts, because we understand from criminal defense attorneys who are there that it is sort of an unspoken rule that for a first-degree murder case, you can't plead to it, that you have to go to trial. It's not really something that's written or hard or that you could appeal over, but that's what prosecutors usually do, is they take these to trial, and if it's going to be lesser, then they'll plead it out and can plead it out. What's your opinion on that? I know that's not the case in Georgia where you practice.
It's not. Excuse me. Typically in murder cases, I take them to trial if I can, unless they're willing to reduce it, because what have you got to lose? You're looking at life without parole. So go to trial.
Marie, do you think he should have pleaded in this case?
That's why I call it the NTL defense, nothing to lose. I agree with him, because if you can't plea it out, right, and they're not giving you any mitigation sentence type, right, so why not just roll the dice and go with what you have? And clearly they went with what they had, and it's not much, claiming that the poor woman died in her sleep of sudden adult death syndrome. You called it SUDS. I call it SAD, because it is a sad defense.
Joel, talk about that defense. Were you surprised out of all the trials that you covered and watched that this sudden, unexpected death of a 39-year-old would be the route that this defense takes?
Yeah, I mean, in a word, it's ludicrous. It's actually LOL, laugh out loud, ridiculous. Essentially, this is a 39-year-old woman whose life was taken from her. We learned she was at a bar class, BARRE, which is like a sort of a Pilates offshoot. And she was there on December 31st, obviously New Year's Day, and presumed to have been murdered sometime overnight into New Year's Eve and on the 1st. So she was in fantastic shape. It's a far reach, but to your other great guests' observations, look, he took a plea to the lesser 2 counts, and he's got to fight, and they've got to fight with something, and this is about all they have. And that's why I think we are over-analyzing. I know speculation and try to figure things out is part of the intrigue in all this, but these jurors are smart. I've talked to a reporter who's looked at the jurors inside this courtroom. There's going to be a very quick conviction here.
Yeah.
You know, Joel, I agree with you, but not 100%. I don't think it's that much of a ludicrous defense. I think what makes it ludicrous is the Google searches he made after, because there is a condition called sudden unexplained adult death syndrome, and it could have been possible. And especially when they did the cross of one of the witnesses who pointed out the building where she worked, there was a Legionnaire's disease outbreak. I think the defense did a great job of trying to key that in, but then I'll agree with you that it's ludicrous in light of the searches he made. It's the searches that are his worst enemy, because that just shows much more than just someone who died. It could have happened, but if it happened that way, then why all those searches? That's his problem.
And if I
And
like
a lawyer that I am not, I've got to respond and say you're 1,000% right. There are at least 3 searches that use the term murder, and if he didn't murder her, then why is he himself Googling the word murder? And I mean this with all due respect. I mean, she could have died by being hit by a meteorite too. So I mean, there is this sudden adult death syndrome. She could have definitely. I mean, people die all the time, but by all accounts, she was in excellent shape. But all the actions sort of leading up to the murder, and particularly after the murder, point to something other than sudden adult death syndrome.
And if it was a sudden sudden adult death syndrome, why freak out? You woke up, your wife has passed away. I think the first call is 911. I mean, it's.
But the defense is up on tomorrow, and where are they going to start? Because he's got a good team.
Good team or not, he pled to those other 2 charges, and that's basically admitting that he did it.
I do want to play something from today, and this is what they tried to get to. This is the Commonwealth trying to get this out, having to do with whether or not these 2 were fighting prior to. Let's take a listen to that sound and get everyone's opinion.
What did she tell you as far as problems she was having in this conversation on December 29th?
While I don't remember the specific words that were spoken after 3 years,
Yes, sir.
I will tell you that she did say that at the time that they were having marital problems.
What did she tell you as far as traveling back and forth?
That it was taking a toll on her, that she wasn't, that obviously as a mother, not seeing her children.
Okay.
So you see there, the prosecution, they've been able to bring out the fight perhaps, but did they do enough to show that there was prior friction? Because there really weren't a lot of people who could come and say, oh, I saw this bruise on her face. I saw this problem, this issue with them. It was very, I don't know, understated. Would you all agree?
I do.
I think it worked in favor. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, ladies first.
I think it worked in favor of the defense, because I really thought this witness was coming on, and he was the witness with the big guns who was going to say how unhappy she was, who was going to add, an exclamation point to their motive, but he didn't. He was kind of corny. I don't know what was up with his eyes, that he kept closing them for a long time like he was falling asleep, and he wasn't. He just was underwhelming. He didn't help them. And maybe it's because of all those sidebars. They had restrictions on what he could say, because they did keep interrupting him. But as far as what I thought he was coming to do for the prosecution, I thought it fell flat.
I agree with that. I believe that he did fall pretty flat. It wasn't as exciting or as riveting as one would expect a witness that saw one of the last people to see the victim alive.
He was much anticipated.
Didn't have much to say.
For sure. He was at the end, towards the end of the state's case. We are going to keep talking about this. Our panel is staying with us. We've got to slip in a break. When we come back, we're going to look at what the best evidence was that came out of that Dedham, Massachusetts courtroom today, including what could be the last words ever written by Anna Walshe.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, one of the last people to see Anna Walshe alive takes the witness stand. We'll show you today's key moments from the end of the Commonwealth's case.
Closing Arguments tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
The Microsoft executive gunned down. Now his ex and her new husband are charged with his murder.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
She wrote a children's book about her husband's death. Now she's accused of killing him.
Welcome back to Court of Opinion. You know, in many criminal trials, the majority of the focus ends up being on the defendant inside of that courtroom. And perhaps fairly so, because it's their life that is typically on the line. But that can be so tragic for the families of victims to not see the attention on the person whose life was lost. And inside the courtroom today, in the case against Brian Walshe, the Commonwealth really ended their case with a focus on Anna Walshe. So it relates to what our Court TV Court of Opinion team chose as today's best evidence. Take a look. This is a commemorative champagne box. It was signed by Anna, the victim here, and Brian and their friend Jim, because they were all celebrating together at a New Year's Eve party, the end of the year. They were looking forward to what was going to happen in 2023, and they wrote down their words of advice about the year ahead. Here's a listen to not only the victim's last written words on this, but also that of her husband, who would eventually be accused of her murder.
Wow, 2022, what a year. And yet we are still here and together. Let's make 2023 the best one yet. We are the authors of our lives. Courage, love, perseverance, compassion, and joy. Love, Anna. Jem, Anna, Brian, New Year's Eve 2023, to the best triumvirate ever. Love, Brian, and then the date, December 31st, 2022.
Let's bring back in our power panel. We have Mazi Mazloom with us, Marie Pereira, and Joel Waldman. And Marie, I'm going to start with you. Your opinion on us choosing that, the last words from Anna read aloud inside of the courtroom through her friend.
Well, it really shows that you can't judge a box by its cover and the writings therein, because she's talking about love, compassion, this and that, but not to, shame the victim. She was having an affair, and she was texting her man that she violated the vows of her marriage with while she was celebrating New Year's Eve with her husband. So it just goes to show you what people have on the outside of a box doesn't show you what's on the inside. And again, let me just say, it doesn't mean she deserved what he did to her, allegedly, but it just goes to show you nobody really knew her or what was going on in her marriage, because everything on that box didn't say that she was someone who actually had another side man that she was chilling with on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, Joel, how do you think the prosecution has handled maintaining Anna's humanity in front of this jury?
I think they've done a good job. And, it is one thing to have an affair, which Anna was allegedly doing, and, more than allegedly, because they brought in her paramour who talked about it. And then there's a whole other level of morality and issues when you're talking murder here. So she was a flawed person, but I think jurors can relate to that. What they can't relate to is if someone claims that their wife dies next to them, and this notion that he pokes her. Brian Walshe, they say that he pokes and prods her once, pokes and prods her twice, and then the third time she falls out of the bed. Like, I don't know why any defense attorney, this guy Larry Tipton, who's apparently a very formidable defense attorney, why would he add that detail? Because it's ridiculous. There's a reason it's called dead weight. He pokes her a third time. She falls out of bed. Look, she was flawed. Brian has a lot greater issues to worry about right now. And I think the jury gets that.
Yeah, Mazi, what do you think about that being the evidence presented in court? And I saw you shaking your head when Marie said, look, she's saying that, oh, we're happy and we're together, but she was on her way out of this marriage.
Well, he was on his way out, too, for 3 years, apparently, getting sentenced for the other charges that he was facing. So I think it was just her, honestly, being happy that the new year was coming so she could move on with her life.
Yeah, who could have predicted what
Who could
was
have
ahead?
predicted?
Let's look at something else that got an honorable mention from our team in terms of evidence today. This is a look at some surveillance from Home Depot. It's of Brian buying a 12-pound bag of baking soda, buckets, brooms, etc. You know, in total, he spent at one of these places about $453. He went to several home improvement places, but this is interesting video that we saw, and he kind of mixed it up. Marie Pereira, he was wearing a mask in one surveillance video. He's wearing a mask again in gloves now, but in other video at Lowe's, he's not wearing a mask. I mean, it seems to run the gamut for what he was doing during the hours after his wife, if it's in the light most favorable to him, was just unexpectedly dead in his house.
And you know what? It's not just to see the consciousness of guilt and all of the supplies he purchased to clean up what he had done. It's just his nonchalant way of strolling through the aisles. He didn't look like someone who was shocked. He was just about to take his wife apart piece by piece. And then at one point you see him in the mirror flicking his hair back, trying to be cute for the camera. But meanwhile, you allegedly just murdered your wife and you're buying equipment for cleanup and dismemberment. That part is going to hurt him extremely because it just makes him look like a sociopath.
Joel, what was he buying this baking soda for, do you think? I mean, it's kind of shocking to see two 12-pound bags of baking soda, but I also want to get your take on Trooper Proctor not being called in this case.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't think it's any surprise that Trooper Proctor wasn't called because of the Karen Reed, infamy. Is on the witness list for the defense, I believe. So, I mean, I guess there's a scintilla of a chance that he could still be called. I don't think it's going to happen because obviously his name is just, too tainted in the Massachusetts area for either side to really risk it. But these 12-pound boxes of baking soda, that's the first I ever heard of it. I only thought you had the little Arm & Hammers that you get in the refrigerator. I think that probably had to do with the blood cleanup. But to your other guest's point, I mean, here's a guy, and it's tough to tell if he's wearing really thin winter gloves. I thought those were latex gloves. But either way, again, just with that sort of nonchalant attitude going around, Home Depot's got to have the worst reputation in all of true crime. Their motto should be, you can shop here without being a killer. It seems like Home Depot comes up in every single murder story that we cover.
And they always have video. There's always video at checkout of people with at these home improvement stores buying everything that they buy. Mazi, if day one tomorrow, day one for the defense, how do you prep your client? If he says, I'm going to testify and you can't convince him otherwise, what do you do ahead of tomorrow after we've heard from all of these other witnesses?
Well, after you pray a lot, you try to convince him to make sure you listen to the questions, answer only what's asked of you, and keep to your story. That's all you can do. If you slow down and think too much, it's obvious that you're trying to come up or conjure up a new story or a new version or add details that you didn't share earlier. And I think the prosecution's smart enough to pick up on that, and it could come back to haunt him.
I'm curious if anyone else on our panel believes that he is going to testify. Anyone thinking he's going to raise his hand and step up to the stand?
I'll tell you, all the lawyers that we've had on, and I'm not an attorney, I'm just a journalist, but being the narcissist that he is, I don't see any way around it. I mean, I think it is a really dangerous move, as I'm sure both of your guests will attest to, anytime you get a defendant on the stand, but particularly this guy who thinks he's the smartest person in the room. It's been interesting to watch his demeanor as the trial has progressed. Today, by far and away, he looked the most nervous. And I'm curious what your guests think about providing narrative testimony is to not perjure his defense team if he's just going to get up there and just go, and how potentially dangerous or how long that could be.
Yeah, Marie, I really want to get your opinion on that one. Could we see a Robert Tellis type narrative?
I don't know, but I do think that if he's sticking to she died of sudden adult death syndrome, and he chopped up her body because he panicked, he's going to maybe have to get on the stand and explain to the jurors the reasonableness and the source of his panic. Maybe I was on probation or house arrest, and I thought if something happened and I was under investigation, immediately they would revoke my status of being on house arrest. Let us understand the mechanism of your brain that ever thought, instead of calling 911, let me dismember her body and tell a whole lie about her going to work. And that was really stupid too, because she took an Uber in a flight. How is he going to prove that? So it shows me there was no premeditation, because premeditation it involves making it make sense and some planning. What happened was a heat of passion situation. I called it IHOP. He should have gone to IHOP and heat of passion instead of making that sad defense of sad. Really.
And honestly,
I see you shaking your head.
Yeah,
and I want to jump in, though, because Maria is saying this isn't first degree.
Well, I don't know. Reasonable doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt, is the best way to explain it is common sense and reasonableness. Is it common sense to act the way he did? Is it reasonable for him to chop up his dead wife's body because he got freaked out? No, it's not. And that's basically the prosecution's case.
That's their position.
So,
the defense is up next. We do have to leave it there because we have to get to our break. When we come back, we're going to take everyone beyond the gavel. This is where we break down the biggest true crime cases, the ones that haven't made it to a jury trial yet, but we are interested in what is happening. And this one is involving a really deadly and sickening family affair. More on that after this. Let's go beyond the gavel. This is where we look at cases that either have not gone to a jury for a trial, but they've either ended at the end of the case, and we're looking at what happens afterward, the before and after of those cases. That's what lies beyond the gavel. We're zeroing in today on a tragic and twisted case in Michigan. 22-year-old Rebecca Park went missing while she was 38 weeks pregnant. This happened on November 3rd. Her body was discovered on November 25th, and her baby was gone. 3 people are charged in this case, and that includes Rebecca's sister, Kimberly Park, her biological mother, Courtney Bartholomew, and her mother's husband, Bradley Bartholomew. Now, her fiance, Richard Fowler, was initially looked at for the murder, but ultimately he was only charged on unrelated drug charges. Her mother is now charged with murdering her daughter, and not only that, of cutting her unborn child from her womb. It's despicable details. Now, according to the probable cause affidavit, take a look. Courtney, this is the mother, said that Rebecca was still conscious when they cut the baby out of her, and Bradley was holding the knife to her throat. This is the mother and stepfather. She told Rebecca to lay on your back. Your baby is going to die. Once the baby was out, she said that Bradley slit Rebecca's throat with the knife. And that probable cause went on to say that Bradley said that the baby was then put in a cooler and eventually placed into a dumpster. And it goes on to talk about this man, the baby's father. He is the fiance of the victim in this case, Richard Fowler. He was also having affairs with both her sister, Kimberly Park, who's been charged, and her mother, Courtney. Let's bring in our guest panel on this one. We have Mazi Mazloom with us, Marie Pereira, and Joel Waldman. Joel, I got to start with you on this one. This one shocks the conscience with the details.
Yeah, thank you, Julia. I was actually hoping you were not going to start with me on this one because it is so unbelievable. That's the only word you can use. This makes Deliverance look like Legally Blonde. I mean, when I read the details of this case, I said to myself, there is a real problem in this country. I always ask myself, how can there be so much violence, so many true crime stories in one country, and then to just ratchet it up The only thing I can think of lately that comes even close to this is the God's Misfits story, where two moms from Kansas went on a custody trip into Oklahoma and were just savagely murdered there. But here, I mean, you're talking about a biological mother murdering her biological daughter, but before doing that, literally removing her baby. And the motive behind this is potentially that someone was going to out, that the daughter was going to out her stepfather, the husband of her mother, and get him put back on the sex offender registry. It was either that or the possibility that they just wanted to steal her baby. But either which way you turn this story, it is gruesome, depraved, and if there's ever the case for the death penalty, this is it.
Marie, your opinion on this one, especially we've got this sister who first pointed the finger at the parents, then at Fowler, or started with Fowler, but was trying to protect him. She has told a couple of different stories.
You know, the producers sent us a little synopsis before we go on, right? And I was reading it over and over again and just trying to understand the players and what was going on. So, Joel, you explained it perfectly, right? But to me, it still doesn't make sense, because what was the purpose of them opening up her abdomen and taking the baby out? Did they do research on how to keep a baby alive? Because the baby ended up dying. That part makes no sense to me. But when I heard it, I thought about satanic worship, drug use, meth. These people could not be alert, oriented, and normal mentally for them to do something like this. I'm still thinking there's some demonic cult situation. Come on.
Mazi, do you agree with Marie? Do you see something like that coming out in this case?
I mean, this is a scene or a story out of a horror film, demonic horror film. It shocks the mind. And to put the baby in a cooler and in the trash the next day because it was trash day on Thursday. Unbelievable. It's unfathomable.
Let me ask you this as a follow-up, because you've got all of these different people who are probably going to be testifying, and perhaps we could see someone trying to flip. How would you feel if you were a prosecutor and offering anyone in this scenario a deal?
I don't know. I would offer anybody anything. Not with the horrible scene that played out in the woods with the stabbing and the throat cutting, and on top of that, cutting a baby out of the womb. I don't know that anybody deserves a deal.
Agree. And then the sister who told a lie in the beginning, they actually let her out on bond. So if anybody's gonna flip, it's her, but she flipped already because she initially lied about it and tried to impede the investigation, and somehow she was able to get bond. Nobody associated with this crazy, gruesome, heinous, not even made-for-TV murder should be walking anywhere. They should all be locked up until they go to trial and get convicted.
And Joel, we got to talk about this weird love affair. And I'm going to quote someone on Closing Arguments last night, Ali Benevento. She called it a love square because the guy who hasn't been charged, he is someone who was involved with the victim, her sister, and her mother.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, what is going on in this part of Michigan? You know, I alluded to the movie Deliverance, and again, this doesn't even compare. I mean, this is way more haunting. If you've ever seen that movie, it will stick with you for a very long time. But you've got this woman, Rebecca Park, the victim of this murder. The baby is literally excised from her stomach, and then you come to find out that her current fiance, the one that they tried to point the finger at, is sleeping not only with his wife, which is the one person he should be. He's the father of her child, but is also sleeping with Rebecca's biological mother, who's now accused of this murder, and her biological sister. You know, they talked about a triumvirate in the Anna Walshe case, but this brings a whole new, sordid and really depraved definition of triumvirate. You don't want these three associated with each other, but in this story, sadly, they are in the most disgusting and vile way possible. Again, in my opinion, if convicted of these crimes, these people should get the most severe and harsh penalties. And we as a country have to ask ourselves, what is going on in America?
You know, we're going to leave it there. Great opinions from everyone. We are going to step to a break, but when we come back, we've got a lot to talk about. We got some big headlines. We're going to get the hot takes on the cold facts. We will get the biggest opinions from the biggest cases from our panel, and that includes these stories that you're looking at here. There is potentially a grand jury that's convening in that mysterious case surrounding this music star, David. Luigi Mangione, not in court today, but a lot coming out in his case. And Mama Donna Adelson has a new home. We'll talk about it all after this.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, one of the last people to see Anna Walshe alive takes the witness stand. We'll show you today's key moments from the end of the Commonwealth's case.
Closing Arguments tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
A Microsoft executive gunned down. Now his ex and her new husband are charged with his murder.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
She wrote a children's book about her husband's death. Now she's accused of killing him.
Our Court of Opinion experts, they always have strong takes on all of the trials we bring you here on Court TV, but now we want to get their hot takes on the biggest legal headlines that are developing this week. And because we want to get to all of these cases and hear from everyone, just like in a court of law, our seasoned panel is going to make their arguments, and we're going to give them 25 seconds on the clock to state their case. And before we get to their hot takes, here are the cold hard facts for our first headline. This one out of California. TMZ reporting that singer David's record label exec is facing grand jury questioning. This is in that mysterious case of a teen found dead in a Tesla that was registered to the singer. That was Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Her decomposing body found in the car back in September. No charges in that case, but a cloud of suspicion on this very popular music star. Reports say that this label exec could be heard in the courtroom hallway saying the DA was very, quote, pushy on why I didn't call police. Officials there in LA County, they aren't confirming that a grand jury is convening, which is typical. Let's bring back in our guest panel. Mazi Mazloom is with us, Marie Pereira, and Joel Waldman. Joel, I'm going to start with you on this one then. Let me know what your take is, 25 seconds, on the grand jury potentially convening.
Well, I'll start here. As a former broadcast journalist and host of a podcast, I cannot believe how quiet this has been for as long as it has been. The LAPD completely tight-lipped, but there are a lot of reports coming out of LA right now. To your point, that this manager is being scrutinized and that David is being looked at as a prime potential suspect in this case. So expect an arrest at any moment here and expect David to be handcuffed.
Marie, what's your take, especially on how the prosecution is handling this, going grand jury, not with straight charges?
I think it doesn't take much to get an indictment. We used to say in law school, you can indict a ham sandwich. Just because you get an indictment doesn't mean when the case moves forward, you will get a conviction. But I think it's a good step because this little girl was found dead in the vehicle. Somebody has to say something. And I think that itself speaks for itself. And there is probable cause for at least a grand jury investigation. Let's see what happens. It's not looking good for this kid.
Mazi, let me get your take on this one. This one has a lot of people talking and questioning why there aren't charges.
Yeah, sometimes when you don't have enough evidence, you take a case to grand jury because of the public pressure. And you can present a case in a way that the grand jurors will no-bill it. And I've got a feeling that's what may be happening here. And there's no charges and no warrants for his arrest yet.
No charges, no warrants, no one saying publicly whether he's involved. Let's move to our second hot take story. This is a headline that has to do with Luigi Mangione, someone who is accused in the death of CEO Brian Thompson. Now, prosecutors released photos of evidence that they are fighting to have admitted as part of this trial. The evidence includes guns, clothes, and handwritten notes, including this one that stood out to us. It was a to-do list, it seemed like, written by Mangione, allegedly, and it says to, quote, pluck his eyebrows, among other things, including get away, go to Pennsylvania. Marie Pereira, what's your take on this one?
he had a list that says pluck his eyebrows. On a serious note, I think everything in that backpack should be admitted. And I think when they took the backpack from him, he was in the McDonald's and somebody had snitched him out. And I think them taking the backpack was a part of a lawful arrest, and they had every right to look through it. But I could understand why they wouldn't want it to be made public and used against him. I don't think they're gonna survive that.
Mazi, he didn't, did he? Do you think he plucked his eyebrows? What's your take on this on his to-do list? 25 seconds.
From the brief video that I've seen, I don't believe that he plucked his eyebrows. Tweezers or not, I don't think he did so. But I agree with Maria. I think that the evidence is going to come in. If it was a lawful arrest, search incident to arrest allows them to go through his belongings. And unfortunately for them, he had everything on him.
Had a lot on him. All right, everyone's staying within their time. Let's move to number 3. This one is down in Florida. Huge case that happened there earlier this season. Donna Adelson accused and convicted in the death of Dan Markell, her son-in-law. She is being transferred to Homestead, Florida. She's been in this holding facility for women since October. A judge recommended that she go to one that is near Miami. She's going to be about an hour away from her husband, Harvey. Joel Waldman, you have been an expert on this case on your podcast, Surviving the Survivor. You've been there in the courtroom. If you can give a take in 25 seconds, let's hear it.
We mapped it out, 43 minutes in Miami traffic to get from Miami, from Harvey Adelson's home, to visit Donna in prison. She is exactly where she belongs. We had 2 former Florida inmates on our show last night. While Lowell is the harshest female prison in Florida, this is up there. All lifers here. It is going to be a brutal stay for her. And one former inmate says she's going to be welcomed, even though she's 75, with a beating. And some people believe she deserves it.
That's the time, Joel. I know you got a lot to say about this one. Got to give Mazi a chance. Mazi, tell me what you think about how Donna Adelson is going to fare in her new prison home. 25 seconds.
You know, if you watch the TV series, Orange is the New Black, I imagine something like that in one of those scenes is going to happen to her. You know, jail sentences are harsh, and if you're in a prison or a jail that's notoriously bad, it's not a good place to be. So I don't think she's going to enjoy her stay.
Marie, final word on Mama Donna being inside of her new prison home, and also whether you think we're going to see charges coming down.
I think it's still up in the air whether or not they'll charge her daughter. I still think there's hope for that. But as far as her reception when she gets to the new prison, remember when she was trying to get released pending her trial? She said that one of the inmates was trying to come on to her. So it's not just a beating. I think they might try to, you know, change Donna into Don, unfortunately.
Oh, so you think we might see some infractions, perhaps, when she's behind bars? We will see. We hope not. We hope it is what it's supposed to be there inside of that prison for Donna Adelson. Fantastic job today to our Power panel. Thank you all for being on with us. Criminal defense attorney Mazi Mazloom, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Marie Pereira, and Emmy award-winning journalist and podcaster of Surviving the Survivor, Joel Waldman. Thank you for being with us. And thank you for connecting with us this hour, joining the conversation. We'll be looking for your opinions online. I'm Julia Janae, reminding you that we all have opinions. We all can air them out, but they should be rooted in facts. And we should be striving at all times to respect the next person's opinion. Listen to them, hear them out, compromise when you have someone that you don't agree with, because that is what makes the world go round. Coming up next, we have closing arguments with Vinny Politan. He is taking a look at a pretty shocking case in Oklahoma. There's a teenage rapist who was sentenced to 78 years in prison.